Hey guys, Bubblegum 95, recording live from the local county prison cell. This is you'll see why I'm laughing in a second. Um, as far as I know, we still haven't gotten a date confirmed for um, the upcoming episodes and whatnot. So I'll probably check that after this. And to be honest, if I see it, I'll do it tomorrow or the day after or whatever. Might even do it today. But I wanted to get this fight out of the way because it's so out there, and it's not that out there in the grand scheme of things, but it's a fight that I've seen a lot of back and forth on. And the premise of it, of how I came to do it, I'm gonna just say it. So it's Princess Bubblegum from Adventure Time and Makima from Chainsaw Man. Now, the reason behind this fight um is because people have been drawing a ton of parallels between Adventure Time and Chainsaw Man. Um, of all things. So I was like, well, I have to do it. Well, I have to do a fight between the two properties, right? That's gotta be like, you gotta, right? So I was like, well, do I do Finn versus Jen? No, Finn versus Denji's a bit of a squash. Jake and Pochita? No, Pochita's not really like a fighting character. Like, I'd have to give Pochita the actual Chainsaw Devil powers, which isn't really Pochita anymore. That's kind of just Jake versus the Chainsaw Devil. Um, which is a shame because I really wanted to put Jake in a fight. That would have been awesome. But so, and then I saw a bunch of people like talking about talking about how this was like they didn't want to see this. How this was like the worst matchup for Makima or something. Um, which some people might say, but I think it's good, and also it fits because, like I said, I needed to do a fight between Chainsaw Man and Adventure Time. So I'm gonna go into I'm gonna try to go into the now. Full disclosure, I have a very very passing familiarity with Adventure Time because the show was on for 10 years, guys. I mean, like, and I maybe watched it for like the first two, and then I just kind of checked in and out, but didn't really, then there were some episodes that I was watching back to back, but not really, so like I kind of jumped in and out and didn't really catch up. Because I wasn't aware that there was a story involved at any point. So, and Chainsaw Man, I'm kind of just like, you know, I've watched the parts of it I've watched. It's so it's kind of the same thing here. But so we'll start with Bubblegum, I guess. Princess Bubblegum, she's as the name would imply, the princess of the Candy Kingdom. She was created from a being known as the Mother Gum, which is kind of just like the shit. It's kind of like the primordial being of the element of candy. So in the Adventure Time world, this is going to take some lore. In the Adventure Time world, there's four primary elements. There's fire, ice, slime, and candy. So, and there's always kind of like a embodiment of these elements that continue to, that kind of get reincarnated and become descended, over the years, right? So when one dies, there becomes a new one. There becomes a new elemental of fire or ice, right? No one will ever top Slimy D, though. uh, but so yeah, she is the descendant of the kind of candy elementals, and her whole family, for lack of a better term, were also descendants from this same Mother Gum, which, you know, there was a lot of infighting between them, and she actually started a war. But yeah, point is, she's like 800 years old now. Normally, she gets introduced as like a science character, um, but later, after discovering her actual latent candy powers, that she starts to obtain a bunch of other, you know, abilities. So among her actual candy powers are, her biomass is composed of candy, right? Well, she's made of bubblegum, but she can use any candy that she needs to, like, so, like, one time she created a bunch of nanobites that turned her arms into muffins. Get used to me saying things like that, I suppose. And she just kind of stretched her arm out and made a new one, right? So as long as she can keep adding candy to her biomass, um, she can kind of just turn her body into whatever she needs it to be, pretty much. She's not a shapeshifter, but like she can, like I said, she can shape a new arm out of whatever's there, and she can, you know, her body just literally becomes like clay to her. Um, the other ability she has, which is kind of cheating here, is to just create unlimited amounts of candy. She can shoot jelly beans, scotch mints, root beer. Those are the only ones we've really seen her do, but um she can create unlimited amounts of them, but also she can do it like with enough force. She shot jelly beans once with enough force to repel a falling building and send it falling in the other direction, right? She by combining scotch mints and root beer, she actually, like, essentially created a bomb that you know, blew up a celestial being that came down to attack the Candy Kingdom. So it's like a powerful explosion. It's not just, you know, carbonation that killed it. She's also been able to crystallize people in root beer before. Um, and what was the other thing she was able to do? Point is, yeah, she's got all these crazy candy powers, right? And but despite that, like I said, she is a scientist at heart. So she has fought with technology and, you know, gadgets and whatnot. Now, because she's usually someone who, you know, prepares for things, let's say, uh, you know, usually I would say that this is, you know, something she used once or twice. But she did use a force field multiple times. She used it against Flame Princess and in the fight in the last, like, in the finale episodes, right? And she wasn't really wearing, like, a tech suit or any, or so to speak, right? So I think the force field is probably reasonable as a thing to give her regularly. This force field has repelled Flame Princess's fire, which was powerful enough to, like, destroy the, like, fire guardians that were meant to be the, you know, primary weapon, like the secret weapon of the fire kingdom. Is that what they call themselves? The Fire Nation, sure. And it was also enough to actually, like, just, like, not get crushed by a giant, you know, by, like, a giant hand that tried to attack her. So it's clearly it's a very durable force field. Other than that, she's used other gadgets, like, you know, the stuff that she has a thing that makes it rain, and she has a thing, but that's usually something she brings, like, or invents at the time of, because she is a phenomenal inventor. Like I said, she made, you know, those nano machines, those nanites that made muffins appear. She invented those. She also kind of, like, invented the entire candy. She kind of created the entire Candy Kingdom, which is where the theme of this fight kind of comes into play, because Princess Bubblegum is considered a manipulator by the fan base, or at least was at one point. Not only does she kind of just use Fim knowing that, he's has feelings for her all the time, but she also, kind of created a race of people who were not supposed to question her and who were to always be happy at all times. She kind of like gave those people life and is ruling over them with no contestant, so that's a bit problematic, but she had a redemption arc. It's fine. She married a vampire, so that's okay. But yeah, uh this fight takes a bit of a dark turn when you get into the thematics of it. But anyway, let's go into Makima. So Makima is the reincarnation of the control devil. So basically, in the Devilman world, there is a devil responsible for each individual. Or did I say Devilman? For the Chainsaw Man world, there is a devil responsible for each kind of like blight of humanity. There's a snake devil. There's a gun devil. There's an AIDS devil. There's a so on and so forth. Makima is the reincarnation of the control devil. What that lets her do, that gives her some very specific but very, very kind of OP abilities. So one of those abilities is mind control, right? So she's able, if there's somebody who she believes to be beneath her, she can generally manipulate them, right? And if it turns out that they are stronger than her, she can actually convince herself that they're weaker than her by beating them in a fight once. And then her powers usually work. Her powers are based off of people fearing her and her own perception of being superior, right? This is why she tends to look at people like they're, dogs and not really value any human life, or any life for that matter. Another ability she has is, like most devils, they can enter contracts, right? And in those contracts, she can actually create very lucrative conditions for herself, especially when she's able to manipulate people and mind control them. So she at one point actually created a contract with the Prime Minister of Japan that if she were to die, a random Japanese citizen would die in the fashion that she would have. So if she gets beheaded, the head falls off of some guy in Japan, and then her head just grows back, right? Or gets reattached, rather. But that's more of a conditional thing. I don't know that you would use that in a death battle, because that depends on, because we don't really know all of her contracts, so you can't really say that that's the case. But yeah, and then she has the regular devil abilities of, superhuman strength, durability, and whatnot. Her other ability is a little harder to explain. It's only described as an invisible force that she's capable of manipulating to a degree. See, spoilers, but she was able to kill Power, who is, another demon. And not just kill her, but completely separate her abdomen from her torso and head by pointing her fingers at her and yelling bang. Not yelling, but just saying bang, right? So, and she's used this attack before, or since, on Denji as the Chainsaw Devil. But because of his superhuman durability, it didn't actually kill him. It just kind of launched him into the air, and she was able to repeatedly shoot fire at him and launch him into the atmosphere. So we know that it's an incredibly powerful, attack. The other thing she can do is she can actually kind of surround this force around a specific person and just crush them to death. But to do this, she almost needs Death Note circumstances. She needs to have a sacrifice willing to be sacrificed, who she usually just mind controls to be willing to be sacrificed, she has to have them wearing very specifically a white blindfold, and she needs them to say the name of the person that she wants to kill. And then she can just, like, flatten them with this invisible force remotely from wherever she is. But, I mean, obviously that's not going to happen in a death battle. And then her last ability is that that she can borrow the powers of anyone that she has contracts with. Now, you might think, well, didn't you just say contracts are situational, right? That's a plot develop. Well, she is able, like I said, she is able to mind control people and form contracts with them, right? Now, the contracts that the people she fills usually depends on the capabilities of the person she's filling them with, right? The only reason the Prime Minister of Japan was able to actually fulfill his contract was because he has authority over the citizens of Japan, which is why he was able to actually let them forfeit their lives. Otherwise, she would have had to form contracts with all of them. But she has before filled contracts with rats on a moment's notice to borrow their sense of smell and whatnot. Or, I think she borrow birds, like their eyesight, so she could see from where they were. So she's done that before. That leads to maybe some interesting things, but depending on where this fight was taking place, I don't think she'd be able to just do something like that. This fight would probably take place in some sort of crowded area, and then in that case, she could, like, convince someone to, stand in front of her while she attacked or something, maybe. But I don't think that this would be, like... These are some interesting implications, but I don't think we can really say that these are, like, determinative factors of the fight. So yeah, going into this. Well, obviously the theme of this fight, if you haven't figured out, it's two manipulators, right? It's two people who are serving their own ideals and kind of, just using people below them as tools. Both of them do go through their redemption arc. Like, Bubblegum ends up having her redemption arc, and then Makima ends up dying and being reincarnated as a little girl who's being taught to be better. But going into this fight, there's a thing called confirmation bias, where, like, where you want something to be the case, so you look for evidence of it being the case. And sometimes when a fight seems really one-sided, you look for evidence that the obvious losing side would get, would have some sort of means to maybe make it a good fight so it wouldn't be a squash. And then when you do that, sometimes accidentally you realize and discover, oh, wait, that's actually the side that would win. That's what I'm getting from Bubblegum here, is, everything Makima has done, I can actually see Bubblegum having a counter. It sounds stupid to say that, but, like, dismemberment, right? Well, like I said, she can produce infinite amounts of candy, and she just needs to add candy to her biomass to just remake limbs for herself. So, like, if you blow her arm off, she just makes another arm, right? But also, like, the force field, which is capable of having, surviving these attacks from these giant monsters, or surviving fire that's capable of destroying, super destroying robot statues. It, I feel like that's pretty much something that's going to be used to stop Makima from one-shotting her. And the mind control thing, I actually forgot to mention this. This is what I was looking for earlier. Bubblegum's crown is meant to protect her from the Lich's mind control. the Lich being essentially a demonic entity. So Bubblegum's immune to mind control from demon magic. So Makima wouldn't be able to just say, okay, you're mine now. And, yeah, and then as for her actual, like, as for PB's ability to actually, like, kill Makima, like I said, she can blow her up, she could freeze her in root beer, she could, shoot jelly beans at her with enough force to crush her to death. Now, if we're not including that whole, citizen of Japan thing, right? Then I feel like this is kind of an easy win for Bubblegum, actually. If we're including that, well, there's no real way to. I don't think you can, just because there's no real way to really quantify that. You'd have to maybe say how many people are there in Japan, and this is how many times Bubblegum would have to kill her. But yeah, I don't think that's the case. But yeah, I mean, stupid as it sounds, I think Princess Bubblegum has this mainly just based off war of attrition, honestly. Just the fact that nothing Makima does can actually beat her, and all of Makima's best things are conditional. It's like like, if she could use the Gun Devil's powers or something, which has been theorized that's how she's able to do the bang thing. But, um, I don't think that would be, because the Gun Devil has to kind of be there for that, right? Or for her to use the contracts, or for her to and like, if this takes place in the Candy Kingdom, then she's gonna have to use the candy people, who Bubblegum pretty much uses as expendable anyway. So what difference does that make? Um, so it's kind of on the basis that in a setting of death battle, Makima's not really able to use her full abilities, and the ability she does have access to, Bubblegum's actually pretty much immune to all of that. Now, to be fair, Makima is superhumanly strong and was actually able to almost kill Denji in his Chainsaw Man form by ripping out his heart. But then you have the same problem as the gun thing, where, like, does it really matter if you rip her arms off or rip her head off or whatever, when she can just remake them out of the candy that she can make out of thin air? I mean, this isn't even getting into the whole candy curse thing where she can turn people into candy, because, well, I didn't really bother mentioning that because that's kind of a plot-driven thing as well. But that's the other thing. If I gave Makima the thing about, okay, she can, use the citizens of Japan's as meat shield, then Bubblegum should be able to do that, I feel. And then she can just turn all of the meat shields into candy, and there you go, contract broken, right? So, yeah, stupid as it sounds, Princess Bubblegum. But anyway, Rebel Engine 95. See ya.